Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling something that, well, pretty much every organization has to do right. Whether you're running a local cafe or you're the CFO of a giant multinational, you got to guess the future. Scientifically, though, we're talking about forecasting mechanics, predicting next week's sales, next quarter's cash flow. You need a method, something verifiable that anchors your projections to reality.
That really is the challenge, isn't it?
Yep.
And, our listeners sent over a great set of sources that cover the whole spectrum, from like really simple arithmetic all the way up to complex machine learning stuff.
Okay.
So our mission here for you is to kind of build a roadmap, help you figure out which tool fits which job, depending on, say, your team's skills and what the business actually needs. We want to help you cut through all that noise.
Right, avoid the overload. Okay, let's unpack this. Because look, every single forecast, it doesn't matter how fancy the math gets, it starts with one thing you just can't skip.
Yeah.
Actual results.
Absolutely, the actual.
They're the baseline, right, the point of truth. Everything else gets measured against that. You've got to know your history before you can really plot a path forward.
Which takes us right into the foundational methods. And honestly, these are often super effective because they're simple and transparent.
Yeah, the sources kick things off with the simplest of the simple. The naïve method. I kind of love that name.
Yeah.
It just perfectly captures it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Whatever happened yesterday, well, that's what's going to happen today and tomorrow.
It really is the simplest approach you can imagine. Tomorrow's number is just today's actual number. So if your cafe sold, I don't know, 300 lattes today, the naïve method just says, okay, 300 tomorrow. And the fascinating thing, for stable businesses, short-term stuff, it's often surprisingly accurate.
And it serves this really critical purpose, what the sources call the benchmark rule. It's like, why spend all this time and money on some super complex model
Right.
if it can't even do better than just assuming tomorrow's like today?
That's the fundamental truth. If you're a quote-unquote smart model, the one that took ages to build and needs special data, if it can't beat yesterday's number by a decent margin, well, you're just wasting resources, aren't you?
Yeah.
The naïve method, it sets the floor. You have to justify every single step up in complexity from there.
Okay, so we've got the floor. The next logical step then is trying to smooth things out because, few businesses are perfectly stable day after day. You get noise, random fluctuations.
Exactly. So we move into simple averages. The easiest upgrade is the simple moving average, or SMA. You just average the last, say, 3 or 6 months, whatever end periods you choose.
Okay.
It's transparent, helps ignore those little short-term spikes or dips.
But, okay, what if your business is like really dynamic? Maybe you're growing fast, sales are picking up month over month. Doesn't relying only on an SMA mean you're always going to be under forecasting?
Yeah.
It feels like just using the rearview mirror.
That's actually a perfect analogy. The SMA is totally anchored in the past. If that lag is a problem, then we can kind of manually nudge it forward by upgrading to the weighted moving average, the WMA.
Ah, okay. So instead of just averaging evenly, we give more weight, more importance to the recent numbers.
Precisely. You might say, okay, 60% weight to last month, 30% to the month before, maybe 10% to the one before that, something like that.
Right.
Both SMA and WMA are still pretty simple. You can do them in a spreadsheet, but the WMA starts to bring in that idea of momentum,
Yep.
recognizing the current direction, but still keeping it fairly simple.
That kind of sets up a key difference, though. With SMA and WMA, you make a hard cutoff, right? A 6-month average totally ignores month 7. What if you want the older data's influence to fade out more?
Yeah.
Gently, mathematically.
Okay, that's where we make the jump to really capturing time dynamics better, using exponential smoothing methods. This becomes really necessary when your data isn't just noisy, but it has clear patterns, predictable trends, or seasonality.
Like retail sales going nuts at Christmas.
Yeah.
Or electricity use spiking in the summer. Things you can see coming.
Exactly, those kinds of things.
The sources lay this out as a kind of progression. Maybe we can think about it like building a house.
Yeah, I like that. A good way to frame it. So you start with the foundation, simple exponential smoothing. It gives more weight to recent data, but the older data's influence decays over time. It doesn't just abruptly stop like a moving average. It handles the basic level.
Okay, foundation down. Then we notice, hey, our sales aren't flat. They're actually growing, say, 5% every quarter. So we add the next level to the house, which is Holt's linear trend method.
Direct. Holt's method explicitly adds a mathematical trend factor into the mix. So it's not just smoothing anymore. It's smoothing plus figuring out the slope, the predictable upward or downward path.
Got it. And then finally you realize, oh, wait, our sales always spike in the fourth quarter because of the holidays, so we need a special room or maybe a whole wing of the house just for that predictable seasonal pattern.
That's Holt Winters, right? Holt Winters, yeah, that's the full package. It extends Holt's method to handle both the trend and those distinct seasonal cycles. These three simple Holts and Holt Winters, they really hit a sweet spot for a lot of businesses.
How so?
Well,
Yeah.
they balance being mathematically sophisticated enough to capture trends and seasonality, but they're still accessible. You can often find them built right into tools like Excel or Power BI. So powerful, but you don't necessarily need a PhD in stats to use them.
Okay, that makes sense. So far, though, everything we've talked about is basically looking backward in time, right?
Yeah.
Assuming the past predicts the future in some way.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the sources talk about a major conceptual leap, moving away from just time-based methods where the model only cares about T-1 and moving towards driver-based models,
Yeah.
where you actually link performance to measurable business inputs.
Yes, this is where finance and operations really start talking the same language. The forecast stops being just an accounting thing and becomes a real management tool.
Because you're looking at cause and effect.
Exactly, that causal link between inputs and outputs.
Yeah.
And you model that mostly using regression analysis.
So instead of predicting total revenue based only on last month's total revenue, you're predicting revenue based on things like unit volume times average selling price, or maybe OPEX based on headcount times average salary. Things management can actually pull levers on.
Precisely. This gives you huge explanatory power.
Yeah.
But, and this is a big but in the sources you have to maintain it, those coefficients, the numbers that mathematically link, say, marketing spend to unit volume,
Yeah.
they must be refreshed regularly. The recommendation is using year-to-date actuals to keep recalibrating the model.
Hold on, though. If these driver models need their coefficients updated like every month, isn't that just trading one manual task, guessing the final number, for another potentially more complex manual task, updating the coefficients? Where's the real win?
That's a fair question, and it gets to the heart of why you'd do this. The payoff is flexibility and, frankly, accuracy when things get volatile. Your business isn't static, right? Think about something like the pandemic. Suddenly, the old relationship between, say, how many people you employed and your office utility costs, completely broken.
Oh, okay.
If you were stuck with fixed old coefficients from before, your budget, your forecast, would have been totally useless.
So by constantly refreshing those coefficients using the latest actuals, you're basically creating what the sources call a living version of your budget model. It keeps learning, reflecting today's reality, not just last year's history.
Exactly. It's like continuous learning baked right into your process. But you're absolutely right. This needs infrastructure. And as companies grow, some really dive deep into granularity, modeling things down to the individual product, the SKU level, or even transaction level.
Wow. Okay, those super detailed models sound incredibly powerful. But that's got to come with a hefty price tag, resource-wise.
Oh, absolutely. You need pristine, granular data. You need tight collaboration across basically every department. And yeah, you often need specialized planning platforms. Tools like Anaplan or adaptive spreadsheets usually can't handle that complexity well.
And the risk.
The risk, according to the sources, is getting overwhelmed by the complexity. When these models become too detailed, just maintaining them week after week, month after month, can easily become someone's full-time job, unless you have really solid automation and very strict version control.
Which, ironically, might be the exact moment when machine learning starts looking attractive, when the scale and complexity just get too big for traditional methods, maybe even for humans to manage effectively.
That's often the trigger, yes. For truly massive data sets or conditions changing incredibly fast, or when you have these really complex nonlinear relationships that simple regression just can't capture, ML might be the only practical way forward.
So what's the key advantage ML brings, functionally speaking, beyond just handling tons of data?
It's really about scale and nonlinearity. ML models can find these really intricate, sometimes hidden patterns among hundreds of different factors all at once. We're talking about techniques like random forests or gradient boosting. XGBoost is a popular one. These are great for pulling in dozens of causal drivers simultaneously into one prediction.
And for time series data specifically, if the timing itself is super important.
Right. For really high-frequency, complex time series data, think like minute-by-minute stock prices or electricity demand forecasting, where long historical patterns matter a lot. You might look at specialized neural networks. Things like LSTM, which stands for long short-term memory.
Okay.
The main point is these models are built to continuously retrain themselves, adapt, and handle complexity way beyond what a person could manually track. But, and this is crucial, using them properly usually means you need an experienced data science team. It completely shifts the kind of talent you need internally.
Right. And that leads straight into the big trade-off, doesn't it? The business side of all that sophistication. ML can be incredibly accurate, potentially, but you often lose interpretability. It becomes a black box.
That is the absolute essential distinction businesses need to grapple with. And the sources are really clear on this, almost a direct warning. If you just need a number, ML can give it. If you need to explain the number to justify a big investment, maybe, or explain to the board why sales suddenly dipped, then regression and those driver-based models might still be the better choice. You're basically trading explainability for potentially higher accuracy.
Okay, so let's try and bring this all together. We've gone across this whole spectrum. For you listening, trying to figure out, okay, where should I be on this map? What are the key things to consider?
Yeah, there's definitely no single best method here. It's always about what's right for your situation. You really need to look hard at 4 things inside your own organization. First, what's your data like? Quality, granularity, availability.
Okay.
Second, what's your forecast horizon? Are you predicting next week or the next 5 years? Big difference. Third, what are your team's skills and what systems do you actually have? Do you have data scientists on staff or primarily financial analysts working in spreadsheets? And finally, how much do you absolutely need to be able to explain the why behind the forecast number, that interpretability question?
Then we can sort of map this whole journey into maybe 4 general stages just to help benchmark where you might fit.
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it. At the basic stage, you're using naïve or maybe simple moving average, good for stable situations, short-term views.
Okay.
The intermediate stage, that's where exponential smoothing comes in. Simple Holt winters when you've got clear trends or seasonality, and you're likely working in standard tools like Excel or Power BI.
Then moving up.
Moving to advanced usually means you're implementing regression or driver-based models. This implies you have strong, measurable cause and effect relationships you really need to understand and explain.
And finally, the top tier.
And the expert stage is where ML and deep learning live. That's typically for very large, complex data sets, situations needing super frequent updates, and where maybe predictive power trumps the need for easy explanation.
Okay, that maps it out well.
So maybe the key thing to wrap up with is this. Remember that complexity itself isn't the goal.
Right.
More complex models do not automatically mean better forecasts.
Yeah, that's a crucial point.
They often bring in new assumptions, new dependencies. They need significant upkeep. Those simpler baseline forecasts, your naive method, your SMA, maybe a straightforward regression, those are the benchmarks. Any fancier model has to prove it can beat those baselines by enough to justify the extra effort and potentially that black box risk.
That really is a powerful takeaway. Simple isn't primitive. Simple can be beautiful, especially because it's transparent. The real goal isn't the math, is it? It's utility. Does this forecast actually help people? Does it help them act faster, think clearer, and stay aligned? That's the real measure of success here. So next time you're looking at your forecast, maybe ask yourself, is this model serving me in my decisions, or am I just serving the complexity of the model itself? Something to think about. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.